Greetings! Thanks for checking out my gunpowder wood burning video. I've got two sections where I actually show the wood burning. I'm putting one of those first at the very beginning of the video so that people who are more familiar with the stencils don't really need to see the whole process with the vinyl transfer process. You can just see how the gunpowder wood burning works. There's a little extra information thrown in there. If you need more help with the vinyl cutting part of it, then just hang out till the end of that and there'll be a whole section on doing the vinyl cutting. So I hope you get all your questions answered and have a lot of fun with this project. Okay, so here's the new design. It took me like 5 minutes to do, and I saved my gunpowder. I've applied a vinyl stencil created with a Cricut to a piece of wood. Before doing this burn, I had created a stencil using Cricut stencil vinyl, and that didn't work well at all. The stencil vinyl does not stick to the wood, and when I poured the gunpowder on, it flowed under the stencil. I poured all of that gunpowder into a folded sheet of paper, and this worked incredibly well to apply the gunpowder right where it needs to be. I'll always use this process going forward. While I'm applying the gunpowder, I'll go over a few tips for the stencils. I've used matte, metallic, glossy, and holographic vinyl, and they all work well. It was only the stencil vinyl that didn't stick to the wood like it needed to. I've been surprised at how detailed I can get with the stencil. However, I'd be careful in how far you push that envelope. If you're doing a project on an expensive or irreplaceable piece of wood, practice on a cheap piece first. I haven't tried, but I imagine you could sand the design down and start over if needed. I've applied stain over the design, but it needs to be a light color. Also, the burn is not very deep. Consider protecting it with polyurethane or epoxy. Hold tight and watch the rest of the video for more pointers on creating the stencils. Okay. If you touch that, I'm going to be unhappy with you. Watch out, it's fire. There he is. The bear. Oops. There's probably, it looks like there's a little bit of detail I didn't get out, and I'll just go in there and get the rest of the pieces out with the tweezers, but looks good. To get started, I'm just going to tell you what you need to do this. And while I use a Cricut for vinyl cutting to cut the stencil, you can cut a stencil by hand like they used to do back in the day. So I'm using my vinyl cutter, my Cricut. I have a maker. It doesn't have to be a maker. It can be just a regular Cricut. Just something, or a silhouette, or whatever. I've got a little piece of vinyl, and it's nothing fancy. This is just a piece of scrap that fits over. Okay, so here's the box I'm gonna do. I'm actually gonna do one design on the top. Seeing that fits over there well enough. I mean, there's gonna be a hole there, but I can block that off with tape or something. So I'll cut the design on this and the stencil and apply it to the wooden box. My computer so that I can download the file to the Cricut, and then some Smokeless gunpowder. is what I'm using. I think that's pretty much all. Oh, well, I need the lighter. I never have much luck with these things, but the lighter to light the gunpowder when I go to burn it. So that's it as far as supplies go. And what I'm going to do is put this on a time-lapse video. A couple things I'd like to mention. The first time I did this, I ended up scrapping the whole thing. I did not center the design on the vinyl, which I could have worked around, but I used a strong transfer tape and it wouldn't release the vinyl onto the box. So the other thing I mentioned about weeding is that you want to pull off the design, where with a normal Cricut project, you are saving the design. That's what you're going to transfer onto something. But here you don't want the design. You want the reverse of the design because it's a stencil and you're going to be wood burning that. You may have noticed that it was a little bit easier for me to weed that time. Just I've seen the design. I did manage to get it centered better on the vinyl. And now I'm going to attempt to do this part where I failed so miserably before. And this is actually I don't remember where I bought this. It was Amazon, and it was a less expensive. It's much less tacky. It's just there's such a fine line between, like, you want it to be tacky, but how tacky do you want it to be? And then I'm going to see, I've already jacked it up. Gosh darn it, I suck at this. I'm trying not to. When I did the ornaments, I did not use the transfer tape because it was they were such small, dang it. They were such small pieces that I was able to just transfer it without using the tape. Great. Seriously getting frustrated here. Again. Okay, so let me try this. There we go. Okay, much better. Okay. Whew. Lots of heavy breathing here. Oop. Point, I'm giving up on perfection. I'm just going for reasonably okay. That's what I tell people in my motorcycle classes when we're talking about there we go. When we're talking about the test, they say, I don't expect you to do everything perfectly, you just need to do everything reasonably well. And that's what I'm doing here. Reasonably well. Okay. Now, I will try to center this. I'm probably going to do a crappy job at that. Oh, come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Because I didn't get it on the transfer tape all that well. Well, it's pretty centered. Okay, so let's try this part again. Let's see if we're any... Probably get this on here and it's going to be completely not center. It doesn't matter, I'm going for it regardless. So that looks good. And... uh-oh, I've got something there that's not, I don't want there. Okay. So now we're going to go outside and light this thing on fire, and we'll see how well it did with this fine detail. Hopefully it is great. And if not, then I'll have a box that it's still a great box, even if it doesn't look exactly like I want it to. I wouldn't normally do this inside, but it's really windy out today, and I thought about doing it in the shed, but I think the garage is safer. So I'm just kind of pouring the gunpowder on here. It's little pellets, which if you've ever worked with gunpowder, you know that. I didn't know that before I started doing this. But I don't want to put too much on because I don't want it to get really hot in spots where I don't want it to be hot. So just a thin layer. I'm going to move it around, make sure it's over all the open spots. And try to keep it off of the spots where it's not going to be burning. I just don't want to pour it on too thick for two reasons. One, I don't want a garage fire. But I don't want because it's got such fine lines in it, I don't want that to run together. I think we're good. Okay. All right, done. Let's see how it goes. Kind of excited. Well, so far so good, but there's going to be a lot of little pieces of, I'm going to have to go back with the tweezers. Okay, so we're going to go back inside. Back to the craft room, and I'm going to start pulling out the little pieces with the tweezers, but I think it actually came out really good. Okay, we're back in the craft room, and I'm going to start pulling off the little pieces of this. Recap of vinyl transfer process. First, cut out design, make sure it's centered. Second, weed out the design, leaving the background. Third, apply the transfer tape to the vinyl. Fourth, remove backing from the vinyl. And then number 5, apply vinyl to object being burned. The sixth and final step in the vinyl transfer process is to remove the transfer tape. So there it is. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell for notifications. Thanks for watching the video, and good luck with your project.